My daughter, my 4-year-old, asked my wife what she wanted. Did she want a boy or a girl when she was pregnant with her? And my wife said to her, honey, what I really wanted was just a back rub. Oh my. Lots of people. 5, 4, 3. CGP Video Pictures presents Trek Tonight, Season 2. This week, Strange New Worlds. With your hosts, Christopher Pitcher, Leo Byrne-Janicek, and Keith Jacobson. Tonight's review, Ad Astra per Aspera. Now live from New York City, Wilmington, Delaware, and Everett, Washington, it's Trek Tonight. Hey there, Trekkers, and welcome to another episode of Trek Tonight, episode 70 of our offerings. And I was telling the guys in the green room a few minutes ago, we've actually produced 78 episodes of something related to Trek Tonight. And as Leo pointed out, we have matched the original Star Trek now with our 78 episodes. So, anyway, how is everyone doing?
Doing okay. By the way, let's start off by wishing a happy birthday to actor Tim Russ, known best as Tuvok from Voyager and more recently from Picard. So,
yes,
happy birthday, Tim! If you're watching,
I'd
be astonished.
Yeah,
but, maybe if somebody knows somebody, tell them we're wishing him a happy birthday.
Yeah, I hear he's a closet fan. So.
He likes closets?
Yeah.
He watches in the closet out of a bit of shame, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Well, don't we all?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not anything but this show.
Right. But, yeah. Right. Just this show. Yeah, of course. I'm operating with a bum hand today. My daughter likes. I make hand puppets, and this is a courtesy of the TV show Bluey. This is a emu named Sean, and Sean and my daughter got into a pillow fight, and my hand got jammed back, and so my mouse hand is a little bit slow tonight. That's why. But anyway, but we ended up switching over to his brother, who also is an emu. So,
all right, what's the brother's name?
John.
John.
Yeah, his mom was from Philadelphia.
Okay.
Only Philadelphia people will get that. But,
water.
Yeah. But at any rate, here we are, episode 2 of Strange New Worlds. And, I thought this was a nice one. I enjoyed, once again, visiting the courtroom drama a la Star Trek. And I thought that was fun. I was glad to see... a little bit more of Pike. I'm hoping next week we really get him, but it was fun seeing and Mount again. And that.
Well said, well spoken, Chris.
Yes, and that will be cut out. So So first impressions, guys. What did you think?
I thought it was. I'm like a broken record because I mean. I am because Oh my God! Keith thinks it's great.
Yeah,
I'm shocked, but I do. This is a really freaking good show.
I shall alert the media.
That's right. I mean, even the well, there hasn't been a not great one, but I think this one is better than last week's, and last week's I thought was good.
Right.
I think Star Trek. I don't know what it is about Star Trek, but damn, they got their courtroom dramas nailed down. I mean, it's like I can't think. Has there ever been a bad courtroom drama episode of Star Trek? I don't think so.
Not that I can think of.
I don't think so.
A lot of people compared this one to Measure of a Man.
It is. It is very Measure of a Man in that it's about somebody's rights and about discrimination.
Right.
It's interesting because I think the archetypal episode of the original series was of court martial, which was more of a sort of a murder mystery,
Right.
Trying to prove Kirk did not eject his pal into space
Right.
prematurely, and they had to get everybody off the Enterprise except, our best friend's gang and a few of the courtroom people,
Yeah.
to detect the heart rates
Right.
on the ship. I guess they didn't have internal sensors at that time, or the writers hadn't thought of it. But
Yeah.
that was that was more about the drama of Kirk being unfairly accused of something.
Yes.
Whereas this one had a deeper meaning, and it's a little more in line with the idea of Star Trek addressing social issues.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Right.
So yeah, I agree. It's very Measure of the Man. Although I loved all the touches, the sort of TOS touches, the bell,
Yeah.
the circular pad that everybody put their hand on when they testify.
Yes. Yes.
Which, if I recall, like it would correct you if you lied, like if
Yes.
you said something inaccurate.
Yeah.
That didn't happen because I guess nobody decided to lie on the stand.
And there was a moment where they suggested, "Well, I remind you. I think it was. I remind you, you're under oath." And the camera actually looks at everybody looks at. I think it's Una's hand, but I might be wrong about that.
I think you're right, Keith.
They look at Una's hand, which is on the little circular doodad, and the camera actually, you get like a second long shot of that to remind you, don't lie. We'll know if you lie.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Angela's here. She says, "Hi, hey guys."
Hey,
Angela!
And Craig says Star Trek Jag streaming on Paramount Plus this fall.
Oh, I would so fucking watch that show. Oh my God.
I would watch that.
And you're
too.
not alone, because Scott Taylor says, I would love to see a Star Trek Jag series.
See, Scott is a man of superb taste and quality, thinking.
Yeah,
The
Scott
prosecuting
Taylor's a thumbs up,
attorney.
but it's nice to hear from you too, Scott.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that would be kind of fun, right?
I would watch any sort of Star Trek show. So,
Wow.
but I think it could be fun. It is interesting how now when the ship is like off, like at a distant star base or somewhere where they don't have access to the JAG department,
Right.
that they would use like ranking officers as attorneys, must receive, I guess, some training in this. And Captain Patel, who is, Pike's sort of F buddy, they're sort of in a relationship, but certainly not. It doesn't seem.
Yeah.
What's the word I'm looking for? Exclusive. Yes.
Right.
So she's the prosecuting attorney, but then, she's backed up by this Vulcan Vice Admiral Hasek, who there's a wonderful scene in the mess hall where Dr. Benga and Lieutenant Ortegas are watching Spock and Hasek have this conversation, and she's like, it was like, so you understand why I must logically put your friend in jail? Yes, of course, it's logic. Would you like to play a game this way? Yes, that would be very enjoyable. And he's like, and Benga's like, listen, Vulcans don't show a lot, but you got to study the body language. Those two hate each other.
Yeah.
And
I love
like,
when Spock comes over and apologizes for the row.
For the outburst. Yes.
The outburst, yeah.
And it looked like
great.
It was the most polite conversation. Like, it looked like they were talking about the weather or, just the most bland conversation, because there was nobody got up, no tables were flipped, which I guess is in line with Vulcans. But I love that he just apologizes to them and they're like, we won't say a word.
It took me to the Lower Decks episode where you
I was
saw
thinking
Vulcan
that too.
ship. Yeah.
Is that sort of outburst?
Yeah.
It just prevented you from that I was referring.
But,
anyway,
no, there was a lot of great stuff in this. I particularly liked the character of the defense attorney. Now her name's eluded me at the moment.
Nira.
Yep.
And
Okay.
played by Yatad Bataki. Badaki.
Yeah, I'm glad that they came up with a new character because, they weren't really talking about her last week by name, and I thought, oh, they're going to drag somebody out, that we've seen before. But I'm glad we got a new character. I think it's cool.
Yeah, and
I will say that I remember you and I and Keith all trying to analyze what the set was, and there's a set where in the teaser trailer where something's going down and Pike comes through the doorway.
Right.
Well, it's the doorway to her office.
Right.
And we kept saying, oh, what is that? A Klingon symbol, or is it a this, or is that? It's just whatever artwork's on her door.
Yeah.
But it's as a matter of fact, let's see. Do I have a yes. I have a picture of it.
Yeah.
That's him sitting in her office, and we were looking at this. You can't see my cursor when I move it around, can you?
No, we cannot.
Okay, all right. But at any rate, yeah. So we know something else is going to happen with her at some point, I would imagine.
Well, she is mentioned is if you watch the show, she's an Illyrian. She's an old friend of Una's, although they're estranged at the beginning of this episode, because Una's tried to get her to come in and be her defense attorney, and she's just like ghosting her.
Right.
So, and she has some very good points about Federation draconian laws about Illyrians, about genetically modified people.
Right.
And Pike does convince her to take the case, which obviously is, otherwise it would be sort of a way. Why build all that set? Why cast this actress? Was terrific.
Yeah, and I just loved his whole the whole concept that he goes to this planet where he can't breathe properly.
Yeah.
And he just keeps hanging around with this little mask on, and then of course her secretary is just like who I really liked for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know. She had a very cool look. Here's a picture of her.
Yeah.
And I just liked her, and he's like, well, I'm not going anywhere, and basically she's like, well, I think you're gonna have to, and basically he almost dies to see her. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, that is, I think, I mean, he is willing to die for Una. That is really what it comes down to.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Knowing Pike, that may have been an ace up his sleeve somewhere in there, but
but he was willing. He was basically like all in.
Yeah. Oh, definitely all in.
Like,
no
either
question.
you're going to let me go in to see her, or I'm going to die in the lobby.
Right.
Right. Which is not a good look for anyone.
No.
But he does convince her, because she keeps he keeps like doing stuff, and she's like arguing back. He says, "Well, you still haven't said no."
Right.
He says, he gives her, and again, they're using those little discs from
love
TOS.
I love those little plastic chips. Those
those
little cube rectangles, whatever they are.
The square discs,
Little square.
Again,
discs.
Another callback, which I thought was great.
Yeah. Here's the details, and it was a great scene. And she comes in, and she is like all business when she meets with Una for the first time, and she's like, "I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this for me." And there was a lot of tension between them.
Craig says Captain Pike basically held his breath until he got a positive result.
Well, a fine practice engineered and used by 4-year-olds the world over.
There you go. Very good.
Very across the galaxy, even.
Yes.
Yeah. That is one interpretation of it. Except a 4-year-old will eventually.
4-year-old gambit.
And he couldn't. So,
Yeah.
But also, just as a note, the courtroom was a modified set from Discovery. Like that, if you remember that big sort of circular room that they had Starfleet headquarters, they redressed it, and they really wanted to make it look a lot like the Supreme Court with the wood and the gold, and the frieze is in the back.
Right.
So
is that a Tellarite on this?
it is.
It
And
is.
by the way, the actor who played him, David Benjamin Tomlinson, also plays Linus, the Sarian on Discovery.
Oh, okay.
Oh, cool.
Oh, is this the frieze you're talking about?
Yeah.
Now, I think it was really interesting. Well, I have a picture up right now of Spock on the stand. He's got his hand on literally the same gizmo that was used in the original show.
Yeah.
I mean, I see very little variation between what his hand is on and what you saw in the original show. So that's very cool. But he's being examined. He's being on the stand here. But I would be curious to get a really good shot of that frieze in the background, because what was interesting to me about it, if my assumption is correct, and my assumption is that the frieze represents the different member worlds of the Federation.
I think I thought I saw a Tellarite in one of those figures.
Right.
But they don't really linger on it too long.
No, I know they don't. But it was a great backdrop for the argument of this episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there you see this embossed gold relief on the wall of how accepting the Federation is, and that they aren't of Illyrians. So that was a very cool. I don't know how much of that was on purpose. I'm going to assume the production design did that on purpose.
It was apparently hand carved.
Neat. Neat.
So they spent a lot of time dressing this set, and since we spent a lot of time in this episode on that set, that makes sense.
Right.
There's I just as a note, I love the new versions of the dress uniforms.
Yes.
I love they still had the triangular medals. If you remember from the original show and the dress.
Yeah.
uniforms.
Let me see if I have something that shows it well. I might have to go back to that picture of Spock. That might be the best image I have currently. But yeah, you can see on his breast, he's got those little triangular things. Yeah. I think they're cool. I like them.
They're very cool, and they look like they're made out of enamel. They're sort of, I don't know if they're cloisonné. They're probably not close up. They're probably not as nice looking as they are from a distance.
Right.
As a lot of props tend to be.
Well, and the other thing too is that the stuff on the shoulders also harkens back a tiny bit to the disco uniforms and the Enterprise uniforms.
Yeah.
So it's got that little touch of that earlier Trek to it, which is kind of cool. I don't know. That's just how I interpreted it, but
I like it. I like the fact they had the ranks on the shoulders. In the old show, it was like how much like gold braid you had sort of up the front and on the collar,
right?
Because Kirk and Spock had fairly like analogous thickness. When Scotty and McCoy were there, it was just like a thin gold line. The difference between full commander and lieutenant commander apparently is pretty big in terms of your dress uniform.
Yeah. Angela wants to know, Keith, did you mic your cat?
He's got a lavalier on.
He's got a lav on. Yeah, he's got a lav on, Angela. As we know, Saber is often a guest on the program, so we like to hear from them on occasion. And Craig Lubin says, red alert, there is a flirting about to assault Lieutenant Jacobson.
Oh, you don't know that half of it.
Yeah,
I'm thinking there will be marks left on me.
Yes. And fur as well.
And fur,
yes.
But I do love the attention to detail. It's sort of calling back the original show, but updating it in a way that makes it look very cool.
Right.
The prosecution calls Admiral April, who sponsored Una for the Academy and promoted her faster than any other officer on the Enterprise.
Right.
And obviously has great affection for her. And they're saying, well, listen, would you have, knowing what you know now, would you have sponsored for the Academy? Well, no, I wouldn't.
Right.
And Nira just is like, well, goes on, starts talking about your General Order 1. It's so important you call it the Prime Directive. and she lists 3 instances where he's violated the Prime Directive, and basically saying, so you can break the law when it suits you, but not for my client.
Yeah, and she almost makes a mistake with this because he had lots of things, including the idea that he had recommended her for the Medal of Valor and all these other things that she didn't get to because she put him on the defensive.
Right. She also struck that whole exchange off the record.
Right.
But that wasn't a mistake. It was never her intention to get to all of those. He was attempting to show the hypocrisy of Starfleet.
Yeah.
With that, and that was the point.
Yeah, I guess.
But also, then Pike goes to visit, or say April goes to visit Pike, who pours them each a drink, and he's like, well, he says, I was going to say all these nice things, but I really didn't get a chance.
Right.
And Pike is standing there holding out the drink, and he just fucks off. He doesn't even say
he
goodbye.
Just walks right out.
He just walks out, and Pike's like, all right, pours one drink into the other.
Yeah.
So he also gets a visit early on from Captain Patel, who is like, who had arranged this. It was a plea bargain, which basically means she gets a dishonorable discharge.
Yeah.
No time. She doesn't go to prison. She remains a citizen of the Federation.
Right.
Just her career would be over. And, she's got her counsel, her like court-appointed counsel, who's like, that's a good deal. We should take it. And she's like, shouldn't this be a sidebar?
Yeah.
Talking.
I loved how she said, how is this guy going to represent me when he works for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, which I thought was fantastic.
Which was true.
Yeah.
And, because when she gets her real attorney, they reject the deal, and then they up what they're asking for is 20 years in a dishonorable discharge and 20 years in a Federation penal colony, which is, pretty severe by any standards. There's Pike trying to convince her to take the case.
Yep. And he's got that disc in his hand. There it is. Yeah. And
again,
like you said before earlier, Leo, winning on the jackets.
Boy, Star Trek jackets, I just want all of those Star Trek jackets.
I know. Yeah. They clearly have a jacket person on the costume, the wardrobe department.
Yeah, he's that's like he's not in uniform, but he's still like it's like that's a guy to keep your eye on with that jacket on. So
now I've got a picture here I wanted to show because did you notice when he's sitting down with her in her office that her chair is an anti-grav chair?
No, I did not.
No, I did not.
It does not have legs on it. It's floating. And I think it's in a bit of video that I'm going to show later on. But in the production still, it's a regular chair.
Oh, okay.
That she's sitting in. But when you see the final print in post-production, there are no legs to it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to look.
Which is very cool. And if it's
I'm raising my eyebrow at you, sir.
Yeah, if it's not in the video clip I'm going to show in a few minutes during our commercial segment, then just go back and skip through the episode and check it out. But I think that was very cool that her chair was an anti-grav chair. I thought that was really kind of neat.
It is, but they also Pike is in this episode not as much as he normally is. Right. He almost can't be because Patel sits down with him and basically, says, well, where did you first meet her? It's like, well, I was speaking to her class when she was in the academy, and she pointed out something a mistake I made. And she's like, well, when he made the speech, she said, how difficult that must have been. I know how much you hate making prolonged, passionate speeches.
That's like a staple of Star Trek. Come for the spaceships and ray guns. Stay for the speeches.
Stay for the speeches. You got it there, Keith.
It's true, but he was not called as a witness, and she's like, I can't call you as a witness because it opens you up to a lot of scrutiny that you don't want. I mean, and she, people sort of give her a lot of grief in this episode, but she did do the best job she could to try to get Una a good deal. as she sort of parsed it. Ultimately, it's not a good deal if you love Starfleet and you love serving.
Right.
But it's it is better than penal colony. But it's it goes to the larger issue of discrimination. As her attorney points out, slavery was once legal, apartheid was once legal. People were persecuted for how they worshipped, who they loved, the color of their skin.
Right, and it does take on. It takes on when you start to hear Una's story about living on this colony.
Yeah,
it does start to take on very much the notes of what Jewish people went through before the war.
There's that, and it also speaks currently to the way LGBTQ people are facing legitimate threats to their existence today. So it's covering like a wide field, because there are a lot of people, who are being denied their rights because of who they are rather than for any logical reason. And the fact that this
by the way, I don't want to let this slide by. Angela says there's a great episode of The Ready Room that covers all the cool jackets of Picard season 3.
I'm sure I've watched it. I will definitely have to rewatch it now.
I don't know, Angela, do you remember what that was? Like where it was in the season for Will Wheaton? Because I watched most of them and I don't remember talking about jackets. So, but I will definitely go back and look at that.
I remember, if it's the same episode, I don't remember which one it was. It's like everybody took their jackets home and then the studio sent somebody around to collect them because those were like amazing jackets. There is a company making a replica. Well, there are two companies. There's one Hero. It's Hero something, and I'm really bad because I actually saw these. They had a booth at New York Comic Con last year, and I stopped by their booth.
They just?
And then another company that's making a leather version. The Heroes are like I think they make a non-leather one. Anyway, the leather one, again, this is hearsay. I looked up the company, and a lot of people were saying, like, they were complaining about the products they got from this company. But I've seen on a lot of Facebook groups, a lot of people are like, I just got my jacket and I love it. So maybe they're good. And they're under $200 if you want the Picard jacket. So
I'm looking at it right now. Hang on. It's $109 for the Star Trek Strange New Worlds leather jacket. That's the one that he wore when they went to the abandoned Illyrian colony. Right.
Ghost of Illyria, which is referenced in this episode.
Yeah. And I'm going to put it in the comments.
Okay, cool. This is a live recommendation, or
yep. Yeah. So if you check the comments, folks, after the show, or if you're on now and you want to check it, there's a link to. It's called the Leather City. That's one of them. I don't know.
There are a number of them.
Yeah.
If I find more links out, we can share them on the page.
Yeah.
Then you get 3 character witnesses. We have La'an and Benga and Spock, who testify as to her character. And of course, people are like, "You ever believe she was keeping secrets?" And everybody's like, "No." Until Spock is yes. She's a deep love of the musicals of Gilbert and Sullivan. So if you remember,
I love that
the Q&A, which was the Short Treks episode where Spock's first day on the Enterprise as an ensign gets stuck in the turbolift with number one, and they spend a lot of time in there, and they start singing some Gilbert and Sullivan towards the end, which was I loved
callback,
lovely callback, and it was a wonderfully sort of like as serious as this episode was, and it was very serious, high stakes. You need to have those little breaks, those little you can't just be heavy all the time,
right?
But also Spock did a wonderful logical workaround. Captain Patel is like, shouldn't logic dictate if she breaks the rules that she should be punished for it? He says, well, it is not logical to get rid of her. And she's like, well, I don't really understand. She says, it would be detrimental to Starfleet if she was not serving. So, nice bit of logical, bit of legerdemain from Spock right there.
Yeah.
And actually, now that I think about it, you know what? I bet that comment was actually aimed at the Vulcan, the bald Vulcan whom he hates.
Yes.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
I'm sure that was like a thing he wrote down. Be like, ask him this.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, guys, I'm going to take a break right now. Sure. We're going to go and listen to these commercial words, and then we will be right back.
Enterprise log, Captain James Kirk commanding. We are leaving that vast cloud of stars and planets which we call our galaxy. The question, what is out there in the black void beyond? This is Captain Kirk of the USS Enterprise. Is there anyone on board? Is there anyone on board? Have you raised anyone, Lieutenant?
Nothing, sir.
It is an unmanned probe which seems to be carrying a warhead.
William Shatner stars as Captain Kirk, and Leonard Nimoy as Science Officer Spock on Star Trek in color.
You going to start the engine sometime soon, Erica?
Don't worry. I did this 100 times during the war. Woo-hoo! It's like riding a bike.
I sense a tension, the feeling that something's in the air.
Oh my God.
Our job puts us up against death. And we might not like it, but we do have to face it. Hold on to your saddles.
We are explorers.
That's the mission. It's what we love most.
I have this crazy theory. I love a crazy theory.
What does this mean?
I don't know. Shut up. Do you know the odds of all of us being here at this time? It's improbable. And yet, here we are, together. Surprise!
Live long and prosper, Mr. Boimler.
You also live and...
Hey, we're back.
There you go.
So yeah, so here was my intention with these commercials. To see where we started and see where we've come. And I think it's really cool to look at what we grew up with and loved and fell in love with and see what we're given now based on the technology, the money, and so on and so forth.
I remember sitting and watching Star Trek on Channel 11, WPIX,
right,
on a little black and white TV back in the day.
Oh yeah.
Only knowing the colors because I had a copy of a book, which would tell you these things.
Yeah.
Maybe a magazine with pictures in it.
Starlog, maybe.
Some Starlog.
Yep.
I still have, and it's tucked away somewhere on my desk. There was a place called the Federation Trading Post. Which was
yes.
On East 53rd Street, right near the Citicorp building.
Yeah.
It was a little Star Trek store that was there for a few years. I want to say like 2 or 3 years.
Yep.
And, when I was a kid, I didn't have a lot of money. They would sell slides of stills from the show.
I remember you had those slides.
And I had it fairly because it was 35 cents each,
Right.
so I could get like 2 or 3, like in a visit. I never, I didn't have much money for like most of they had some very cool stuff, but all of it was, might as well have been $1 million.
Right. Yeah.
At the time.
Yeah.
But it was. I feel like this is the logical evolution of it. Strange New Worlds has done an excellent job in honoring the original series sort of values and, really addressing social issues, which is a lot of Star Trek was like little morality plays, which a lot of early sci-fi was.
Yeah.
Going way back to like.
Well, that's what Roddenberry wanted to do. I mean, who's the author that he wanted to emulate? Who wrote the story about the Lilliputians and the
Jonathan Swift.
Travels. Yeah, right. Yeah, that he was a big influence on Roddenberry as to what he wanted to accomplish with Star Trek. So
that makes sense. I'm thinking about Gulliver's Travels as a season of Star Trek is kind of an interesting idea.
Yeah.
But listen, I think they've done a great job. The fact they've got more money to make it look nicer, I'm down for that.
Right.
So let's keep them coming. And again, this episode very different from last week's.
Yes.
Each episode is sort of a different sort of episode. Like it's not just exploration or just action this was it was a bit of a talky episode, but not in a bad way. It didn't feel like,
well,
let's have a bunch of meetings.
Yes, as the courtroom dramas usually are. I mean, let's think. I guess the menagerie, I guess, had a little bit more action in it.
Yeah,
you got to see bits of the cage.
Yeah,
but it was kind of talky too. Yeah, lots of testimony and debate back and forth and so on and so forth. But
I mean, usually you have either conflict through violence or conflict through talking, and a courtroom drama is conflict through talking.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So it was exciting. It was fun. And God, the speeches were amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I've got to say, and I don't know if it's because I ran out of one of my medications or not, but I got choked up at the end.
Oh, yeah.
I really did. Not just with the summation speech, which I thought was fantastic, and quite frankly, took me a little bit by surprise. I don't know about you guys, but I didn't see that asylum thing coming.
I didn't either. It's interesting because let's backtrack a little bit because Leon was helping the lawyer out.
Right.
And Leon said, it's possible we don't know who ratted her out.
Yeah.
And she says, well, see what you can find. And she orders Uhura to pull up all the references to Una in transmissions for the last X amount of months.
Right.
She's well, I'll collate there. She's including personal logs. She's like, I can't do that. That's illegal.
Right.
And basically he says, you'll get in trouble and it's not going to help her. And I don't think that's what Una would want. And, my hat's off to Uhura for standing her ground. She's a newly minted ensign.
Right.
Talking to somebody who was, somewhat of a bit of a mentor to her somewhat.
Yeah.
A senior officer and saying, I can't do that. We both know that's wrong. And ultimately won't help. So, good for her for doing that. I like seeing those sort of, people taking a strong moral stance, even though she wants to help Una. She's like, whatever we're going to do, we're going to have to find another way to do it.
Yeah.
And because we find out that Leon had made a personal log after she found out Una was an Illyrian, and she was angry, partially because she is descended from Khan Noonien Singh,
right,
and has probably suffered some prejudice on that account,
right.
And they were friends, but she never told her, so she felt betrayed, and she's like, I'm afraid that somebody got a hold of it, and that's what I'm responsible for her being in trouble.
Right.
And the lawyer's like, that's not it at all. He says, first of all, it takes 6 months
Right.
and like a ship full of admirals to approve something like that.
Yeah.
They don't have enough time. There's no way that could happen.
Right.
And she's basically saying, you're not a monster. There's
Yeah.
nothing, you're just a person capable of whatever you're capable of. And it was a wonderful moment between the two of them.
It was.
And she speaks very highly when she testifies. She's like, that Una saved her from the Gorn breeding planet, and sponsored her for entry into Starfleet because she'd lost all her family. And she's like, would you have gone to Starfleet without Una? I was like, I wouldn't be alive.
Right.
And what about the people you saved? Like, well, they'd be dead too.
Right.
Which was a very powerful thing. And Benga talks about her compassion and discretion, which is a subtle reference to him keeping his daughter in a pattern buffer for last season.
Yes.
Which was, I thought, a nice nod to that because that's obviously something that could get him into trouble. I don't know if that'll ever come up again.
Right.
But
probably not, because she's off in her own thing now. So
yeah,
that sort of got resolved. But
that got resolved. But
yeah.
So a lot of great moments in this.
Let me jump Craig's comment in here before we get too far down the line. Craig says each episode last season seems to have a different genre: courtroom drama, mystery, fairy tale, action, etc. It looks like this season is going to follow the same pattern. Yeah,
it definitely is, and I like that because there are so many different kinds of Star Trek episodes, and the fact they have 10 episodes, so they could be like, all right, we're going to do a courtroom drama, we're going to do a mystery, we're going to do a time travel, we're going to do a first contact, we're going to do mysterious, ruins, or a sort of a ship in peril episode. So they pick these things very deliberately, and I never felt like they were ever like retreading anything.
No.
Which sometimes they do. Listen, the old show, it was 26 episodes a season,
right?
And listen, I love Star Trek, but I would say about half of the original series was really good, and maybe a quarter of that was okay, and then there were some dogs in there. There's some little cards in that deck.
Spock's brain.
Spock's brain.
Spock's brain sort of has I wouldn't say I'd give it a pass, but it's so ridiculous. It kind of
it's so ridiculous.
The other side,
but I still have a sort of a affection for it because it's just so silly. Yeah. There are episodes that I just don't rewatch unless I have to, but Spock's brain is not one of them. I'll watch Spock's brain period.
Yeah. What is brain? You're not Morg, you're not I Morg.
Yeah.
I get why what that I know, but say capitals, forget it.
Sure. Yeah. Well, of course, because we've made a life of this.
This
That's
is
why
the
there
life
are
we
78
chose.
episodes of Trek Tonight. Anyway, yeah. So I thought that I don't know. I thought the testimonies were great. I agree.
Yeah.
And I loved the resolution, the way she pulled that thing out about Asylum. I thought that was fantastic. And in one stroke, she absolves Pike. She comes up with an argument for Una. It was just a brilliant bit of.
Also, because Una was forced to admit when she told Pike, which was 4 months before she was arrested.
Right.
So, it's like, and the Vulcan, JAG admiral is like, basically, like, saying that they're going to have to court-martial Pike. And this,
Pike's next on the block after that.
Yeah, and you're like, Pike is, everybody's like, fuck, and does it artfully. Also, she has a physical book. She has which Samuel T. Cogley would approve of.
Yes, definitely.
From the original court-martial.
Immediately made me think of him. I thought that was fantastic. I kind of wish Craig was here to talk about this, because Craig says Admiral Robert April seems like he was a very good captain of the USS Enterprise back in the day.
Yeah, I would like to see some of those stories, It sounds like he had like a lot of interesting adventures.
Yeah.
Somebody might write.
I'm saying it's a shame that Craig's not here to really talk about that, because that would be interesting to find a little bit more about him.
Well, let's just remember, this is the Enterprise we're talking about, and as Engineer Pelia has pointed out, there is a whole lack of boredom on that ship.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'd be surprised if either they don't do a comic series based on April when he was captain of the Enterprise,
right,
or some novels.
Right.
It's Captain April was originally Roddenberry wanted to make the captain of the Enterprise named Robert April originally, and it got changed along the way.
Right.
But if you remember, there's an episode of the animated series from the 1970s where Admiral April is there with his wife, who was the chief medical officer on the Enterprise.
Right.
That's where they met, and he was going to he was like, I think it was a retirement ceremony, and everybody in the ship started de-aging, and he went from being sort of an old man to being like, in his prime, because it was the 1970s. He was a white dude.
Right.
But I think the actor who's playing him, whose name eludes me at the moment, does an excellent job, because you see him sort of weighing, like, he's got all these responsibilities as being an admiral, but he also seems to have compassion for the officers who he is serving above.
Right.
I like the actor. I like the character. He really got sidelined today, but ultimately for the greater good. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I didn't see that. Well, I mean, again, our knowledge of Starfleet regulations is pretty thin on the ground.
Yeah.
But I liked how she worked it all out, and she put Una on the stand, and that's where we got the title, which means to the stars from hardship.
Yeah, to the stars through hardship.
Through hardship.
I must have. Okay, so obviously, I don't re-record the entire opening voiceover every week. There's some things that don't change, so
right.
I leave them in the edit, and I just do the voiceover of things that change. Right.
Right.
I must have had to do the, this week's review about 5 times because I kept flipping the words. So I would put Astra where the other one was back in. It was just a pain in the neck. But yeah, I said to my wife, because she needed my help with something, I'm like, oh, I just have to do this one VO and I'll be right in. And then it went on to be like a half an hour worth of editing.
I'm sure there's nothing more frustrating than you keep making the same sort of trip of your tongue.
Yeah, I just kept flipping the words. So, but anyway. It's a cool title, though. I liked it.
It is a cool title. Listen, I love this episode. I love the fact that, Una sort of at least began to repair her friendship with her friend Nira, and because it's revealed that Una's family went to the non-Illyrian side because they split the Illyrians and the other Federation citizens into 2 different cities. Right. And her family went to the Federation side because they could pass. And there was obviously a lot of resentment, justifiably so, on her friend's part.
Right.
But she tells that whole story, and she, it's a bit of a gamble to not set up your client as to what you're trying to do. But, she's a very good lawyer, as we found out, and she got everything she needed.
And what's really interesting when you talk about the issue of prejudice is that there is nothing about the Illyrians that makes them look alien. They look completely human.
Well, I will say the first appearance of the Illyrians in Enterprise, they look non-human.
Well,
and it is mentioned that some can pass and some can't.
Yeah,
right. That's what I was.
I just know that everybody you saw on that planet, when Pike goes there, looks pretty darn human. And
but it is mentioned that some people could pass as regular Federation citizens, as humans, which implies that there are those aliens that can't pass as human.
Although I thought that was more about, my reading of that, Keith, was that it was more about what their augmentations were versus physically how they looked. But I mean, Una's is basically her healing thing.
So I watched another video today on this from another YouTuber whom I liked, and the word pass actually is now I'm just basing everything I'm saying now from this one video I saw, a YouTuber whose name is Jesse Gender. It has to do with, there are some transgender people who can pass as cisgender because they look so much like the gender they've transitioned to. And then there are other transgender people who are not able to pass as cisgender.
Right.
So that word pass is a code word, and it implies that there are people who can pass as normal, and for whatever reason, maybe they're constantly glowing, we don't know.
Right.
But there are other ways you can't have a whole city.
Yeah.
You can't have a whole ghetto of them.
Yeah. As Angela says, the glowing bit is a giveaway.
Bits is a giveaway. Yes.
And actually that was the issue when she injured her leg as a child.
Yeah.
Because that wound was glowing to repair itself. Had they taken her to the hospital, that people would have seen that.
Yeah.
By the way, Angela also did a little research for us, and it is The Ready Room with Tim Russ, a.k.a. Tuvok, is the episode where they cover the Great Jackets.
Thank you, Angela. What we know about you.
Angela. Thank you.
Appropriate as it's Tim Russ's birthday.
I was wondering if somebody was going to say this. Normal, Keith?
Yeah.
Yeah. I gave you a pass on that.
Direct all your hate mail to Keith Jacobson at trektonight.com.
I'm learning.
Yeah.
I'm learning.
Well, at least
I'm trying.
At least he's not kowtowing to you about it. So,
all right. Simmer down there.
Yeah. Anyway, and now Craig joins in. On the word pass is also used with people of color passing for white, as an example.
There we go. Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah. So
there you go. There you go.
Which I did not know any of that until today.
Well, there you go. You learned something.
I do. Yes.
This is
again.
The fact this is coming in the middle of Pride Month is not. Feels like maybe not an accident.
Yeah, maybe not.
But I think that it is certainly a timely message.
It's really funny, guys. I don't know why, especially because I have a trans son. But I just went to things like the Holocaust when I saw this. I didn't go to all the current stuff. So,
well, I think it definitely addresses both.
Yeah, you're probably right. I just didn't. I don't know why. I didn't. I think it's because of, and maybe there are people that really are fearing for their lives. But when I think of it as a life and death thing, I tend to think more about the Nazis and Germans and World War II and all that. But, that's true. I'm not sure what is on the nose, but maybe the Pride Month thing. Is that what you mean, Angela? I don't know. Angela says on the nose.
Well,
so
this.
Yes, that's what she meant.
Yes.
We
finally, everybody gets reunited back on the Enterprise. Everybody's delighted to see each other, and as I said, Una and Nira seem to be on the road to sort of reconciling their, their long feud, and everybody's, Una says, like, what are you all doing here? Is driving the ship. And Ortega's like, well, the ship practically drives itself. She's like, all right, back to your stations. And everybody goes off. Yeah. And then she and Pike have a moment. And he's like, well, it's good to have you back, number one. And he gives her this big hug. And she looks like, at first, rather startled
Yeah.
Then she leans into it. And
Oh,
it was
I
a
love
wonderful-
that hug. I don't know.
And
call
then
me
he's
a
like, yeah,
sentimental
all right.
fool,
You know,
but
he sort of
yeah, the hug was great.
gives her a
The
little
hug was great.
friendly slap on the shoulder, and then
Yeah, I love that. I love the hug,
yeah,
and then the little chuck on the shoulder.
yeah,
Was like,
It's-
okay, now we're back being dudes.
yeah. Well,
Um,
it's just that she doesn't strike me as being a big hugger, Una. She's a bit standoffish. As remember, she was referred to as "where fun goes to die."
yes,
Previous season.
I'd forgotten that.
Yeah.
So that doesn't make you feel like, she needs a hug.
And
Or
that
maybe she
episode-
does.
and that episode you're referring to, the one with the Enterprise bingo in it,
Yes.
from last season, that's where I felt we really got to see the other non-Exo Command personality to her, because when
Right.
she and La'an end up running around doing all that fun shit together, you
Yeah.
really get to see her inner personality, which
Yeah.
which was cool, I thought, because before then I don't want to say she was stiff, but she was very much all business.
Yeah.
And so that was a fun,
Yeah.
again,
No,
it's
always great when we get to see sort of like people let their hair down, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah. And I'm really hoping, okay, so now we've got this we needed to get, I'm not saying wasn't a great episode, because it was a really enjoyable episode, but we've got this business out of the way, because we knew we had to resolve her being arrested somehow,
Yes.
because it happened at the end of the season. So now I'm looking forward to some real classic Star Trek stories coming up.
Well, I watched The Ready Room.
Yep.
And they did show a preview for next week.
I haven't seen it yet, but
I will not
will
spoil
watch it
it.
after this.
I believe it looks intriguing. I mean, I've never seen a preview and be like, ugh,
Oh,
you know,
well, yeah.
but listen, I want to watch them all in a row right now, but obviously not an option. But
Yeah.
because I don't have access to it, but I think it's going to be a fun one.
Well, and we wouldn't have a show. Let's face
Yeah.
it. If we could sit down and binge watch them all, we'd just have one giant nerd orgasm, and then that would be the end of it.
Yeah.
So instead, we're having multiple smaller nerd
We're
orgasms. Is
yes,
that what you just
little-
said?
Yeah,
Yes.
little teasing ones throughout the season.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood what was going on here.
Yes. There you go. This is why we're TV 14.
Yes.
Someone have bought me dinner first.
Anyway. Hey, listen, I kind of did, because we're on at 9:00, so you can have dinner now.
Excellent, thank you.
Anyway, let's see. We are 3 minutes away from the end of the hour. Any last thoughts on the episode, guys?
Yes, I do. We've already talked about it a little bit, but I just really want to hit this point again and drive it home. That summation speech is fantastic. That summation speech alone is worth the price of admission.
I totally agree, Kate.
I think it's going to go down and was as one of the classic Star Trek speeches.
It is, and it's not by a main character, which is fantastic.
Yeah. It's well. I mean, we had Coughlin's speech in that one, and this is going to rank right up there with that, and this is going to be one of the top 10 speeches in Star Trek, I predict.
Dare I say, I think her argument was better than Coughlin's.
I think so too.
Yeah.
It's interesting. A lot of people comparing this to Measure of a Man, which it definitely there is a parallel. There's another TNG sort of trial episode called The Drumhead, which had Gene Simmons, the British actress, not the lead singer of Kiss.
Yeah.
Which is terrific and also still very much timely. So if you're jonesing for a little Trek courtroom drama, I would suggest watching that one. It is, I think, it's sort of an unappreciated gem.
Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah, I just want more. This was excellent, Angela. Yes, thank you. It's the Elverson seal of approval.
Yeah.
This was terrific. It was a terrific episode. well acted, well directed, well written.
Who's the writer, by the way?
I mean, we could Google it and then edit this part out where I'm Googling it. Let's do that. It was not a name I recognized, but that is not a.
I posted Drumhead TNG courtroom episode in the comments. Yeah. So if any of you forget, it's in the comments.
Dead air, and
think of it as building tension. Yes. We need like some dramatic music playing right now. Boom, boom.
You know what? I'm just going to keep this quote of Angela's, so whenever I want somebody to agree, I can just click it and go, "Yep."
I think that's
on the
cheating.
Nose, right there. See, I have these. If I could keep these, I would.
Yeah, I think that's cheating. And what if Angela? What if you say that once Angela comes back? Wait a minute, yeah, I don't agree with that.
That's not on the nose.
That's not on the nose.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put us on the spot there.
Well, that's all right. I'm sure it's somebody very talented.
It's just like it's especially with the Writers Guild strike.
Oh yeah.
It has become a thing for me that I don't think the writers get enough credit.
Okay.
Yes, the actors, the actors and actresses we had playing this.
We've already done this.
I know.
It was written by somebody by the name of Dana Horgan.
Yeah.
Who did an excellent job, and it was directed by Valerie Weiss. So
there you go. Angela, yes, you do get royalties every time I say I use your yep. There you go. That's another 5 cents.
I'm not doing the accounting for this. Just I'm putting that out there right now. I'm not doing the accounting for this. That's someone else's responsibility.
All right, guys.
By the end of the year, you'll have enough for a New York City token.
There you go. Exactly. Yeah. All right, guys. I guess after that bit of research, that only took 2 minutes, Leo. That wasn't too bad. I'm sure we'll be able to edit out enough that 2 minutes will just disappear.
Yes.
Or as my 4-year-old says, misappear.
I like that.
Yeah, I like Misappear too. I think it's really good. Look, Angela says she's rich. All right, now we're just fooling around. At any rate, next week, episode 3, Strange New Worlds. I can't wait.
Yes.
You know, I think with this series on, I just sort of wish my week away, which is really bad, but at any rate, yeah. So thank you guys for being here. This was a fun episode. It was fun talking to you about it. And I am excited for next week. So
same here. Oh my god, this show is so good.
All right, guys. Oh, that really hurts.
You know, you do have.
I know. I can't. I just don't do it as well with the other hand. See, I've got that. I'm right-handed. What can I say? All right. Live long and prosper, folks. Have a wonderful week. Be safe. Be healthy. Enjoy the summer. Today was the longest day of the year.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's all downhill from here.
Yeah. We're all sliding down the razor blade of life now.
Yes.
All right. Angela says bye.
Bye.
Craig says he can write a script to track Angela Alverson's quotes.
Does that mean we have to pay Craig now?
No, I think Angela has to pay him.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, because that's
everybody's making money but us. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, we're not making a damn penny on this show. All right, except for Keith's generous contribution to Patreon. That's it. All right, guys. I think I just like talking to you, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
Just don't. Yeah. All right. We will see you all next week, folks. Have a wonderful week.
All right.
All
Good night,
right.
everybody.
Good. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wait a minute. Why is this? Where is this going?
You
You know what I didn't do? I didn't mark what they were. So I don't know. Is this add to the stream? What is
Live TV.
it? No, that's the
That's not
commercial.
it.
It's this one. Have a great week, everybody. Bye-bye.
Adios.
Adios. Vamos.